Anyone else? Reddington-Hughes.
Thank you. And thank you for being here today. I know Connecticut is one of the smallest bear populations compared to many other states in the Northeast, yet the highest number of human bear conflicts. Um, as a result of the bill that was passed last time, and I'm going to talk about a component of it where we had people pulling in their birdhouses and locking down their garbage. Since then, more than 3,000 human bear conflicts in 24 to 25 have occurred, 67 home entries. And of those 3,000 human bear conflicts, were any directly linked to garbage or bird feeders?
Yeah, I can take that one. My name is Mason Trumbull. I'm the Deputy Commissioner for Environmental Conservation. And just so I'm understanding your question right, you were saying there was a bear bill that was passed recently, and you were wondering um, if that bear bill had an impact on the number of conflicts related to bird feeders or um, trash cans. Is that right?
I'm actually inquiring as to the conflicts that have occurred. In what percentage of those cases in 24, 25 were bird feeders or garbage the culprit?
Yes, I can. Thank you for the clarification. I can answer that. In our bear report, you'll see we have a breakdown of the different conflicts. A large majority of the conflicts that we're seeing are exactly that. They're bird feeders and they're trash cans, where bears are getting into those human sources of food, and that's almost the first step in the habituation where bears become comfortable around people. And so the law that was passed a couple sessions ago prohibited the intentional feeding of bears, which has been a problem in certain parts of the state where we've seen dangerous scenarios created by people intentionally feeding bears. And that's been a helpful messaging point for us too, to let people know that's not allowed. But that does not cover, as you mentioned, it does not cover trash cans or bird feeders directly. So that law has not applied in those scenarios.
So there have been no fines that have been issued.
We have taken some actions against intentional feeding. Since the bill was passed, we've had one infraction related to dangerous wildlife and 14 warnings. Again, the way the bill was crafted was it bans the intentional feeding of bears. So I don't know about you, but I've never intentionally sped before in my life. And I don't think we'd be able to write very many speeding tickets. I'm using that a little tongue in cheek, but the point there is it's difficult for rank officers to enforce that provision because it's only targeted towards intentional feeding and not unintentional feeding.
Okay, my other question is going to have to do with the drawbacks of us really not having a bear management plan and what results in that. I have been in meetings where I have seen and heard testimonies of folks that had bears, well, that the bear was actually endangering someone, and then when the necropsy was done, that they found things like dirty diapers and other horrible things in the stomach of the bear, which I think that many people don't understand, that letting the bears encroach the way that we have and not doing anything has actually really harmed them. Can anyone speak on that?
I can start and then I'll pass it over to Jason. We think that we can, should this bill pass, implement a bear hunt in such a way that the overall statewide population of bears can continue to grow in a sustainable manner, which is something we support. Well, the bears that are causing the conflicts, as Jason mentioned, would be targeted through a very focused and limited bear hunt. So, Jason, maybe you could answer the question a little bit more directly about how that might occur.
Yeah, so your question was specifically about not having a bear management plan. You mean like the document?
Not having a beer management plan like the other states that have implemented, whether it's a limited hunting season or
Okay.
some way of culling the population so that we don't actually damage the animals.
Yeah, it's kind of an unfortunate situation. Bears are a native species to Connecticut. I love bears. Obviously, I've dedicated my career to them. And we should all be happy that we're here, that they're here, they're recovering. Our job is to ensure that they recover and that population is viable for our grandchildren. Um, and what happens, what I've seen happening is public sentiment is really turning negative towards these animals, where when they first started coming in, people were, excited about it. And, we field thousands of calls a year from residents. And I have residents they would call me and say, I saw a bear, I'm excited. And now they call me and they're like, I'm sick of it. Get this bear out of my yard. This bear has more rights than I do. And it's becoming, it's kind of sad to see that happening. But I would say, um, the bigger concern for me is public safety. It's really, really becoming an issue. We're seeing escalation in not only the number of conflicts, but the severity of conflicts. When bears go into people's homes, we have certain towns where people are literally listening to everything we tell them. They don't have bird feeders out, they don't have garbage out, but these bears have become so habituated and food conditioned. They go to these houses and they're like, oh, well, there's not food on the outside. I'm going to go check inside. And I can't give advice to someone on, well, do you put metal bars over your windows? So it's an unfortunate situation, where this is happening. And honestly, like, it's getting dangerous. Someone's going to get killed or severely hurt. And we're on that track if we stay where we are right now.
Well, I want to say thank you for your efforts, because they certainly are very appreciated in my neck of the woods. And when I hear folks very negatively saying that this is about trophy hunting, I just want to clear the air and let them know that that is not the case here. A good bear management plan is good for the animal as well.
Yeah, like I said, my job is to make sure, is to conserve bears and make sure the population continues to grow. Eastern Connecticut really doesn't have an established bear population. If we were to have a hunt, there would be no hunting in Eastern Connecticut, because it's my job to make sure this population is fully recovered. Our job is simply to target areas where I view it as a public safety hazard. It's not so much about population control, it's about conflict control and public safety.
Well, thank you for your help.
Thank you, Representative